Alrighty, so I'm going to talk about Death Stranding this time. So for those who want to know, Death Stranding is from Kojima Productions. This is the first project since leaving Konami. Yeah, that's right, Hideo Kojima left Konami after the success of Phantom Pain. He was supposed to make a Silent Hill game, but he ended up leaving the company and the game was eventually cancelled. But sadly enough, he wouldn't even go to the Game Awards because Konami somehow has the power and will to ban him from attending. I'm not making this up. The game was unveiled at E3, and the game would go on to use the same game engine as Killzone's Shadowfall. And that's exactly what he used. The game originally came out as a PS4 exclusive, then was brought over to Windows, then a Director's Cut version came out on PS5, mobile, and most recently, an Xbox Series version. But the PlayStation version will go on to be from PlayStation Studios or just Sony entirely in terms of publishing, but 505 Games will take over the Xbox version. But what is the differences between the original and the Director's Cut version? I'll give you some examples. New structures added into the game. You have optimization options in terms of playing in the game's graphics or performance. There's a new story mission in the game you can play. There's a race tracking race, and there's also a firing range that you guys can play around with just to test some of the weapons that you probably want to use before you go out there. See, here's the thing about this game. I've seen some videos saying that this game is a walking simulator, yet the same people who say that, well, defeats their own argument. I say this because you drive vehicles, you take down enemies by running them over at vehicles, or you can shoot them with, like, laser guns and whatever. Okay, it's not really a laser gun, but it's something like a sapper gun. But you get what I mean. There's different weapons like non-lethal weapons, but also lethal ones. But if you're going to fight enemies, you're going to have to use the non-lethal option because there's these monsters called BTs, and these things are going to be a pain in the butt when it comes to delivering some of your stuff. I say this because they're a pain. They're going to try to drag you down, and they're going to try to fight you. But you're going to need some weapons to defeat them. What weapons do you need? Well, grenades and lethal weapons. I also advise some blood bags for yourself because that's what it consumes. Also, the blood represents your health and the blue meter represents your stamina. The game also has some energy drinks for you guys to drink as well. In the PS4 version, there was Monster Energy Drink, but the later versions got rid of it in terms of their own branding, I believe. So what do you do in the game anyhow? Okay, look, there's a lot of people that always will point us out. You deliver packages. It is true, but not just packages, but people. Yeah, you heard that one right. There's people you deliver. But here's the thing about this game too, is that the Director's Cut version also allows robot missions. They're more like robots that'll do some sort of their own missions, and you can essentially deliver them to, well, people. It's all more of an automatic mission thing, so you don't have to really do nothing. The only thing you really have to try to do is rebuild some of the roads. I say this because the robots, well, it depends how long they take. They say if you build the roads, or at least help rebuild them at least, they can pretty much help you out in terms of like getting the good ranking in the game. And each time you keep leveling yourself up in terms of connection and some of your stats, you'll get more upgrades later on in the game. Like brand new weapons and some better versions of the weapons, like new levels. And also some gear that'll help you along the journey. Oh, did I mention the vehicle section again? Yeah, there's like another one too about these things. You got these joint supports like the power boost, which will increase your amount of weight you can lift. There's also a speed one where it makes you go faster. And there's also this one that's mainly designed for mountain climbing. You're going to have to play smart to see which one you're going to need, because you are going to need to all those things I said to help you out in the journey. There's also this little baby called Lou, and that little guy is going to help you. Well, I say this because that's how you're able to detect these BTs. But in later games, you can actually take out the BT ghost things without the needing of the weapons. But that's just later on, so I'm not going to go too specific on that. but it requires stealth. Yeah, you heard me right. But what do I mean by earlier that you can build these roads? Well, there's these little post stations where if you help people, including yourself, build these roads, it'll make traveling a lot easier in terms of delivering packages to other people. You're gonna need things like metals, some crystal things. Oh, you can easily obtain the crystal things by exploring the place or defeating those BTs. The BTs one will give you a huge amount of them, but you're gonna need a good amount of weapons or whatever to defeat those things. So just a little fair warning. Also, the thing is you're gonna need some other materials, but it all depends. But in terms of building structures, you can upgrade your own structures just to make things a lot better or faster. You can make your own bridges, ladders, and whatever. Even if like say that you want to go somewhere but you're afraid that you might need some more stuff, don't worry. The internet is for you, and I'm going to tell you why. So this game has online connectivity without the needing an online, well, multiplayer. You know, I hate it when people always make these things have online connectivity over non-multiplayer games. But this one I'm okay with, and I'll explain why. User-created structures can pretty much help you go along with the journey. Zip lines, ladders, rope climbing, and whatever else there is. There's even cargo you can find. And there's just little structures where you can have your own little locker. You can share a locker, and you can also share vehicles. Yeah, that's right. You could do that. Oh, and if your items are used, don't dispose it. Just recycle it. You'll thank me later, because you'll get some things like metals, crystals, and whatever else you need in terms of your journey. You're going to be needing them. But trust me again, the traveling in this game is not easy. And you're going to need all the materials you can. Vehicles, or some sort of way to, well, get cargo on your butt. Yeah, there's going to be some cargo that weighs like 1,000,000 pounds. And because of that, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to travel along the places. Sure, you can carry it by hand, but your stamina is going to come to play. If it happens to run out, you can always rest or drink an energy drink out of your little bottle. Don't worry, it also has a level up as well, so don't worry about it. But again, there's also these little insects you can eat. They help you gain back your health. If you really want to, you can also put in some signs like the baby sign, or maybe a warning sign, or any other things you could put in there. But it's kind of like the same thing how the cargo goes or anything. You can use them, and you can put likes and whatever, so that way you can feel more like, hey, this really helped me, and whatever. But if you're not connected to the network in the game, not in terms of your own internet, you can't build your own structures, so that's just something to say right there. Or you can't even view anybody else's structures for a fact. And doing those side missions will definitely help you in terms of trying to connect to the network in the game. So that way when you connect, then you can use other people's stuff in the game. But my own advice would just be, don't go ahead and do all the orders at once. Do one at a time. I say this because sometimes there'll be orders that may actually overaccumulate in terms of your inventory. And I say this because there are some packages that will be way too big, or the fact they give you way too many stuff than you should. So my advice is just do one at a time just to be safe, because you're gonna need this. I don't know if this should affect the side missions at all or whatever, but I do think it just depends. But if you guys you really think that you can handle this, then cool. But for me, if you're gonna do that, I would just suggest take a vehicle if you can. Maybe one of those jeeps, or maybe a motorbike, but it just depends. But the car itself is pretty useful because you can load up a whole bunch of inventory in it. But the only negatives is that if you're gonna have to find some sort of way to get across, you can build bridges, but it's gonna take some effort. But if you also like the story, then by all means there's a whole lot of cutscenes in the game itself. So it's just something to keep in mind. But for anyone who has an Xbox, well, you can finally now play this game for once, instead of it being locked to a PlayStation or a computer, or maybe just mobile. But don't worry, I'm pretty sure once the time exclusive deal is done with the sequel, then hopefully we'll see an Xbox release just like we did with the first game. So, with that being said, I'll be looking forward to the sequel, as for me it had good music, some sort of great communication for everybody. And I say communication wise because you can help build roads and whatever. So you can all like come together, put in some materials you'll need for them roads, and then eventually just get to where you need to go in order to make packages a lot easier. So with that being said, that's all I'll say. But if you guys do get the PS4 version, you'll need to pay an extra $10 just to play the PS5 version, as I should just mention that real quick. So there is a fee in terms of upgrading. This doesn't apply to all the PS5 games from PS4, but there are some of them you have to be cautious about that. But that's all I'll say about that.